You're as excited as I am to go through this today. It's something that has been designed to really help you visualize the overall world of cases and to start to be able to really better organize your thoughts and thinking around all of these different cases. Now, before we go into this, it's really important that you listen to the following. There are a couple of key things to keep in mind. Number one, this is not to be memorized. These are not frameworks that you can just copy and paste into a case and hope to do well in. If you want to go ahead and memorize this, you will forever remain at a intermediate level. If you want to get to the advanced level, you have to use the following exercise as a learning exercise. Today, we need to talk about how to think about these different case types. We are not talking about for this case type, use this framework. It's really important that you understand this. I have a lot of candidates that ask to print out this world of frameworks, a lot that try to memorize it. They listen to the recording once and then only look at the sheet moving forward. That is not how to best use this. The best way to use this is to continue to watch this recording every so often and really hone in and ingrain the lessons and the way in which we think about these various business problems. Again, I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not memorize this display. Leverage it, pull it from your memory as you're casing, but your job is not to copy and paste. Your job here is to learn how we think about these different problems. One other thing, while this is called the world of frameworks, you can also think of it really as the world of case types because there's not one framework for each case type. As you'll see as we walk through this, this is much more about learning how each case type works, how to think about it, and how to break it down. It is also fundamentally about how these different cases can connect to each other. So, how one might lead to another, or how one might come from another. So, let's jump in. But remember, what you're learning here is number one, how to think about these different case types. And number two, how they actually connect to each other and how they can kind of flow within each other within a case. So let's start off with the number one framework that we think of when we think of casing, and that is the profitability case type. Now, again, it's really important to emphasize that this is just one way of looking at it. This is sort of the classic breakdown of profitability, revenues and costs. But that's not exactly the only way I'm going to talk you through profitability. It's really important, again, that you listen as well as observe what's happening here. It is not inherent that we will break down a profitability into revenues and costs. This is just for the visualization. So let's get started. When we think about profitability, profitability is really essentially our profits are falling, or maybe they're flat, but we need to turn this around. We need to stop losing money. As such, when you think about this case type, there are a couple of key factors to consider upfront and to almost always keep sense checking on. That is external, right? So looking at what's going on in the economy, what's happening with demand and supply, what are some of these macro forces at play? We always want to keep this in mind either with our overall profits or as we break things down by geography, product type, customer, etc. And if we're thinking about that at the macro lens, we're also thinking about how that breaks down across competitors. So if there's this big external shock or factor at play, if there's this industry-wide problem, how do competitors compare to each other and to us? Where can we look at differences across competitors in terms of performance, et cetera? So you're always keeping that in mind as you go through profitability. There's always an element of internal analysis and external analysis. Yes, that's quite messy, but they interact quite heavily. There might be a macro force at play affecting a subset of competitors, and we want to be one of the competitors that's not affected by doing certain actions, right? So even as we look internally, we're constantly checking externally to see if we can learn things or better understand where we fit in. So when it comes to profitability, when you think about this case type, there are a couple of different types of questions essentially that you can ask. And think of a profitability case type as sort of a problem solving exercise. It's really diving into the key root cause. Sometimes that's an opportunity, but mostly you're looking at the root cause and flipping it. Or if you can't fix the root cause, you're looking at another area that you can improve in. As you move through profitability, there's really only a few different types of questions that you ask. And the way in which you ask them is about, which one's going to help you the most. The first type of question is a simple yes, no. Is there an easy question I can ask that is going to eliminate a whole bunch of possibilities, right? This is something like, are profits down for the industry as a whole, right? Have we changed prices recently, right? Yes, no questions are going to be a good way to sort of sleuth your way through the profitability issue. In addition to yes, no, we have questions that are essentially dependency questions. So the second type of question you might ask is something that's going to eliminate a lot of things. So it may not be an easy answer, but you're asking it because if we can get to the conclusion of that, that'll eliminate a whole bunch of other options. So it's sort of a higher level question. The third type of question is looking at anything that is changing or is different or is bigger or smaller, right? Here, you're basically looking for where are there differences? Where are there things going wrong? Where can we identify this problem? So this is certain products doing better than others, certain competitors doing better than others, etc. And of course, you're asking what's the most likely, right? This is just based on the context, based on the prompt and the industry that we're in, maybe some information that we've received. You're asking a question that you think is likely to lead to the answer. So these are your main question types. Yes, no questions that are just easy to eliminate or confirm. Questions that are going to result in eliminating a whole bunch of things. Anything that is changing or different, bigger or smaller, right? Just looking for where we're different to others, where our products are different, et cetera. And then finally, things that are the most likely, right? Now, it could be that you have a question on hand that is a yes no question that's going to eliminate a lot of things that affects the changing state of items and you think is going to and that is likely to occur. And if that's the case, then you can ask that question. That's a great question to ask. There are other cases where you will have slightly different combinations, but ultimately what you're doing when you're going through profitability is you're problem solving across a set of these types of questions. Now, when we are breaking down a company internally, my strong advice is to break it down logically. A default breakdown is revenues and costs. Have we seen a fall in revenues and have we seen a fall in costs or a rise in costs? But ultimately, you want to be a little bit more, I'm not even going to say creative and unique because that's not the goal. The goal is actually to be more tailored because then you will get the answer more quickly. What do I mean by this? Well, if our company operates globally and the prompt has already said that we have offices in North America, in Europe, and in Asia, then we might want to start off by breaking down different geographies, right? It would make sense that if we're seeing falling profits, maybe it's in a certain region. Or if the prompt tells us that we're a company that produces 3 products or 4 products, then we might actually want to start out with a product breakdown, right? Are we seeing a particular issue with certain products? If it's clear that we only have a certain number of competitors, we might break it down by competitors. If it's clear that we have different business units, we might break it down by different business units. Say we're oil and gas, we might go upstream, midstream, and downstream and try and funnel in that way. But ultimately, when you're breaking down a profitability, yes, what you see in front of you is revenues and costs. But again, this is why it's so important to listen to what I say as well. The breakdown matters immensely. Use the hint from the prompt and the information you've received to think, okay, how does this company operate? How can we look at profits across a certain segmentation and then break it down that way, right? So you're asking for those segmentations and you're looking for differences there, right? Which ones are falling the most, et cetera. As you dive into those problem areas, again, you're keeping in mind those 4 question types that we can ask, where essentially you are problem solving. So, for example, let's say that we've identified a product that is in decline. So product B is seeing falling profits. Now, you might ask for revenues and costs, or you might ask for volumes and margins, or you might ask for quantity and price. But let's think about it this way. Let's just say you wanted to ask about quantity and price. Which one would you ask for first? Now, if we have a profitability case and profits are falling, it might be that we have a solution that involves a growth framework, right? We might want to grow a certain product or grow a certain business unit in order to fix our falling profits. In a very rare case or situation, we might even look to acquire a company because that other company can open us up to new markets. We can share customers. There might be synergies. That company might have higher profitability or profits, or they might be able to reduce our cost structure. But the more likely scenario, if a profitability framework turns into another one, is going to be growth. So let's dive into growth. So with the growth case, the number one thing you have to do is clarify what type of growth we're looking for. So this could be improving revenues, this could be improving profits, it could be market share, right? There's several different types of growth, and you need to clarify exactly what we are looking to grow. Now, when you are growing, you have a couple of key options. You can grow your existing business, number one, right? We have a product, we have a market. Let's just grow that more. Something that we're doing isn't quite working. We can do more here. Or you say, okay, we have a great product. Let's go launch it into new markets. Or you might say, hey, we know our market really well. We know that there's a need. Let's go launch a new product. Or in a really risky and ill-advised scenario, you could go launch a new product in a new market. So those are the ways that you can grow. You can grow your existing business, you can have a new product, or you can go into a new market, and you can do both of them at the same time. Now, here's what's critical when you think about this, right? These are our options, and we're going to want to evaluate them. You could see how that could become a framework in and of itself if we're thinking about how do we grow. But what's really important is you want to grow in areas similar to you. So if you're launching a new product, you want that new product to be similar to what you already do. This is because you know it, you have the capabilities and expertise, you have the production, you have the brand, etc. Same thing with a new market, right? If you're going to launch into a new market, you need to make sure that you understand that market, that you know it, that you already have access to it, right? If you think about IKEA starting in Sweden, they did not make their second market Russia or India. What they did is they expanded in the Scandinavian-like countries. And so their initial countries that they grew out of Sweden from were, Finland, Denmark, Netherlands, Norway, Switzerland, etc., right? These sort of Nordic-minded states. So make sure in these cases that you're always thinking about what is similar to what we already do. Where can we leverage our existing capabilities, expertise, network, know-how, etc. That includes launching a new product in a new market, right? You could get away with it if that new market is similar and that new product is similar. The further you get away from what you know, the more risky it becomes and the more capital intensive it becomes. So just be careful here. Now, how do we actually think about growth? How do we think about what works? Well, you want to look at the product that you're going to sell, and you need to look at the customers that you're selling to. Now, by the way, when we say new market, we're saying new geography or new customer base, right? Older customers, younger customers, males, females, etc., or a geographical country, or even another state or region or county, right? So just remember, new markets doesn't just mean geography, it can just mean new customer groups. But when we're thinking about this, we're thinking about the product itself that we are going to sell or are selling, and we're thinking about the customers in the market that we're selling in. Do we just think about that generically? No. What we are doing is we are saying, and listen very closely on this one, is our product better than the competitors' products in the areas that the customers care about. Is our product better than our customers' products in the areas that our customers care about? It doesn't matter if we have the best product in the world if it is amazing at things that customers don't purchase on, right? And equally, it doesn't matter if customers care about a whole bunch of things and we are really good at them, but another competitor is way better. We want to be really good at what customers care about because that's what they shop on. So there's a full evaluation of this product and customer and competition that has to take place. And then there is a client evaluation where we're basically saying, okay, well, like, can we do this? Right. So do we have the capabilities and the resources to do this in a cost effective manner, to build a good product, to compete well? Right. What do we expect in terms of return? Right. Are we actually able to do this? So you can kind of think about this as the what and then the how, right? What are we going to do? Well, we can launch a new product, we could go into a new market, or we could do both, or we could just grow what we already have. And then how do we evaluate whether that's going to be successful? Well, we have to think about what we're good at, what we're planning to make, if that thing we make is good, and if it's good in the areas that customers care about and better than the competitors can do. Now digest that for a second. That's not a framework. It's an approach to solving a growth case. And a growth case could take many different forms, and your frameworks could look very different depending on what happens. Again, you will be able to practice this through the prompt and framework exercises. Now, where can a growth go? Well, we might decide that we want to grow our business by entering a new market or launching a new product, as mentioned. And both of those are market entry. Both of those are going into a new space. And so if we are growing our revenues from any other way than just, our existing ones, then we would enter into a market entry, right? So any new stuff that we're doing now needs to be evaluated across the market entry style. Additionally, if we are growing our existing business, there might be an element of pricing that we have to consider. Maybe we have to adjust prices in our business. And so a growth case could evolve into a pricing case. But let's go over to market entry for now.